Good evening. For those of you who do not know me, I am Rodney Collins, and I'm the town manager of Mashpee. I will be moderating this public engagement workshop. On August 7th, the town conducted an operational meeting and invited the public for the purpose of reviewing the plan for a remote wastewater collection, treatment, and recharge facility north of Mashpee-Wakeby ponds to remove nitrogen from the Pompanesett watershed and to improve water quality in Pompanesett Bay. The system is also proposed to remove phosphorus to improve the health of the ponds. Can everyone hear me? Okay. If you can't hear me at any point, or anybody else up here, just let me know. The system is also proposed to remove phosphorus, as I mentioned. The town requested and Mass DEP approved inclusion of this project in the 2025 intended use plan for a zero-interest state revolving loan, also referred to as SRF. On September 11th, the town conducted a public engagement workshop and another on September 25th. Tonight is the third workshop, and the final one is scheduled for October 16th. Town meeting is scheduled for Monday, October 20th at 7 p.m. at Mashpee Middle High School. The proposed project is listed in Article 4 of the town warrant. Information has circulated that Article 4 will increase taxpayer debt by $25.9 million and is not essential at this time. If I could just have visual aid 1. The reason why I would suggest this is not an accurate point is because the Cape and Islands Fund for Principal Forgiveness is projected to be $6.47 million, and the Clean Water Trust Principal Forgiveness is projected to be $854,700. So the actual Mashpee taxpayer cost is projected to be $18,575,300, or roughly $54,000 a year for the average taxpayer. Information has circulated that taxpayer debt already totals an estimated $195 million for sewer projects and a new police station. This assertion simply ignores that Phase 1 and Phase 1A did not result in a property tax assessment, and that such debt was covered by the following. If I could have visual aid number 2. The Wastewater Stabilization Fund, the Water Infrastructure Investment Fund, or otherwise referred to as WIF, the Room Occupancy Receipts, Cape and Islands Water Protection Fund, and the Mass Clean Water Trust Principal Forgiveness needs to be taken into account when these calculations are being referred to. It is misleading not to include such relevant information. Information has also circulated that this project is not essential at this time, and everyone is entitled to their own opinions, and I understand that. Given the diagnostic studies and the scientific evidence that is compelling and convincing, I would suggest that not to classify a water quality crisis as essential is irresponsible. Moreover, we simply don't know what the future holds in terms of funding relief that this project will qualify us for. So we can seek relief at approximately 28 cents on the dollar and take a responsible path in pursuing this remedy, or we can ignore this serious problem and potentially pay more in the long run and face court-mandated orders. And yes, we can face court-ordered orders. The cost of an individual IA system is very arguable to be far more expensive than any cost associated with this plan. I would also point out, if I could see 3, Phase 2 is projected to be partially covered by the same sources referenced in Phase 1 and Phase 1A. Finally, the estimated costs associated with the initial sewer hookup appear to be very inflated based upon reasonable and realistic good faith estimates. Cape Cod's water resources are in fact under increasing stress. We depend on our sole source aquifer for drinking water and on its ponds, rivers, and bays for recreation, shellfishing, and yes, tourism economy. Decades of reliance on individual septic systems combined with fertilizers and stormwater runoff have allowed excess nutrients to move quickly through sandy soils into groundwater and surface waters. The result is nitrogen overloading in our estuaries and phosphorus enrichment in freshwater ponds. This has resulted in a loss of eelgrass, fish kills, shellfish closures, murky water, and algae blooms. In 2015, the town adopted a comprehensive plan and the concept of total maximum daily load, or TMDL. It had become the standard measure for nitrogen pollution on Cape Cod. From 2021 to 2022, a detailed diagnostic assessment of Mashpee-Wakeby Pond documented a worsening condition. The study confirmed that phosphorus pollution was causing increasingly frequent toxic algae blooms and summer closures. Is this a pattern we want to see grow worse or continue? The town of Mashpee is at a critical crossroad. If I can have number 4. The financing package offered is very attractive. The state has never, I repeat, has never failed to honor an SRF loan. The Cape and Islands Fund is solvent. Residents here have a decision to make at town meeting and at the ballot. And yes, if you're a Mashpee resident, it is your decision. However, voters deserve to know the facts behind why now and the financial risks if not now. And that's what we're just trying to put in perspective. Everybody's entitled to their opinion. Everybody's entitled to a legitimate argument. And I sincerely appreciate all of the folks who have been civil and cordial and polite in whatever points they have to make. And you'll be allowed to make all the points you want this evening. And with that, for indulging in me for a couple minutes, I now turn it over to wastewater superintendent.
You have one more.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. There is one other thing. This particular circulation is not the town's production, and I just wanted to make note of that. The reason why I just wanted to make folks aware of it is if the town produces something, you're going to have access to it, whether it be through the website or we put it on Facebook, or we'll produce a hard copy for you. But if we didn't produce it, we don't want there to be any confusion. This particular map in question is not town produced, and I appreciate my consulting engineer for referencing it.
All right. So we're at our third step in the process, this 4-part process of explaining the project, and so far it's been great. Not all questions have been answered up to this point, but we're doing our best to answer them as we continue on. We've actually had some really good questions that have resulted in us having to do a lot of research, so that's a good thing. So tonight, we're into part 3, and then we have one more remaining public engagement prior to town meeting vote. And that will be back at our normal location at the town hall on October 16th, 2025. The next slide, if you could. Currently, right now, what we're working on is we're trying to arrange an opportunity for people to see this exact type of system currently located in the town. We're just trying to get permission from the property manager. We had a 98%, but we don't want to put it out there unless it's 100%. So we hope to know by tomorrow. As soon as we are aware, we will put it on the town webpage under the news section for anybody that would wish to attend, and that would be next week prior to this meeting between the hours of 4 and 6 is our goal. So we will put that on the webpage once we get the definitive yes or no. Just so we want to make sure everybody's aware. It's in Mashpee. Yep, so it's exact same type of system and same type of leaching field subsurface, so at least gives everybody a chance to walk around it and see it.
By the way, all indications are we're going to receive an affirmative answer, but we wanted to be 100% certain before we announced it.
All right, other than that.
Good evening, everyone. I know this was a topic that was brought up at our last meetings and how residents are going to pay for the individual connections and what those connection costs look like. There are several opportunities for homeowners to seek funding. Particularly the one that we're seeing is the most popular for primary residents is the Cape Cod Aqua Fund. We've seen success from almost 100% of the people using the Cape Cod Aqua Fund in paying for their connections, and it's a very easy application process. We also have USDA funding. It's a homeowner, primary residence only improvement fund and loan program. There is also a grant program for the elderly population and the people who are living on fixed income, so they do take that into consideration. The town has also sought funding through the state. It's called the Community Development Block Grant, and we've created the Mashpee Housing Rehabilitation Program. It is a lottery program for low to moderate income holders to apply for, and they can use it for anything from lead paint testing, roof replacements, but in particular, there is a listing for sewer connections as well. For those of you who don't know, there's also a tax credit that falls under Title V. It's for all homeowners. You can qualify for a tax credit for up to 3 years on your income tax filing for septic system upgrades, sewer connections, and major rehab to your septic systems. For secondary residents, the people who have their second homes here on the Cape, there is also an opportunity through Cape Cod 5, and this is for water connections and sewer connections only. It's a 10% interest rate. It is high, but we're also taking into consideration this is your second home. So just looking at the Cape Cod Aqua Fund, for new sewer connections only, residents are eligible for 0 to 2% betterment loans. The applications are very, very easy. I've talked to residents who have gone through the connection process and they've worked directly with the county. We work directly with the county to just follow through and make sure all the paperwork is filed and our licensed utility installers are getting paid. From what I've seen, people are very, very happy. The property owners must be their primary residence. They must live there full time and they must be occupied year round. Secondary residents are not eligible for the Cape Cod Aqua Fund. The properties and people who do apply for the Cape Cod Aqua Fund is a 20-year term, but that is adjustable and you can pay it early, so there is no fault against the homeowner for doing so. We did a quick calculation, and this is based on contracts that have come to the town in our permit filings and the average costs. And I want to just mention there was some misinformation about the total cost. The average cost is around $7,000. That's for the connection to the lateral means in the road and for the decommissioning of your current septic system. And most of what the residents are doing is crushing in place or filling. The monthly payment at a 2%, which is the highest percentage for $7,000, is approximately $35 a month. Next slide. Okay. So the USDA program, this is for home improvements for low to moderate income class holders. This is, again, your roof replacement, anything you need done to your home, but sewer connections do qualify. And Title V connections and replacements, major rehabs, IA systems, stuff like that. There is a cap on this loan, but it also is a low interest loan. The USDA also offers a grant, which is a lien on your home for a 15-year term, and you do not have to pay it back if you keep that residency for a 15-year period. All of these applications are available at the Senior Center, so we do have the Senior Center helping the elderly population to apply for these loans and get financial approval for the connections. Next slide. The Community Development Block Grant, this is new to Mashpee. We received $500,000 just this past year, which is going to help approximately 10 homeowners with major rehabs on their homes, low to moderate income class. The town has also applied for an additional funding round next year for $850,000, which will double the amount of homeowners that we're able to help to 20. The plan is to continue this program where it's self-sustaining and the town can go for funding yearly to continue to help residents through our whole sewer phasing. Next slide. And the tax credit. So up to $18,000 for all Title V connections, sewer improvements. You can qualify for up to $6,000 a year for the upgrades, and this is going to save you, and you'll get some reimbursements on your taxes each year. So there is financial opportunity out there for you to connect. The Cape Cod Aqua Fund is the primary resource we're seeing residents use, and they're very happy with the minimum monthly payment and the 20-year term. So there is a funding source in place for residents here in Cape Cod. It's a regional problem, and the county is helping us. So there is opportunities out there. You're not lost with the connections.
Thanks, Ashley. I'm going to stand here because I have to use the pointer. So we're going to go over a series of questions that either came up at the last meeting that we weren't able to fully answer, or things that have come up in the meantime. So one of the questions, I guess, that we did talk about this the last time, but it's come up subsequently, so we just wanted to go over this one more time about what happens if your current Title V system fails. So if you are within 1,000 feet of a water body and you need a new septic system, or have a failure, or you want to expand your house, add a bedroom, then you are going to be required to put in an IA system. IA means innovative and alternative. It's an enhanced septic system. It's a step above a Title V system. And that is I think this was mentioned earlier, about a $45,000 cost. There's annual testing fees that come with that too, and all those costs are borne by the individual homeowner. The sewering costs, on the flip side, the cost to connect, as you've heard, is somewhere between $6,000 and $15,000. As Ashley mentioned, that's primarily hovering around $7,000. The sewer bill right now, the base cost is around $800 a year. You could see that on the town website. And the cost of the system is $54 a year, as you heard earlier from the town manager. We were asked to talk a little bit about this, the reason for sewering in general, and this is kind of taking a step back, and I'm going to cover this a little bit and just start back at the beginning and kind of quickly go through this. But in 2001, the state took a look at a number of estuaries in Massachusetts, southeastern Massachusetts. There were 80-something estuaries that they looked at, watersheds, estuaries, about 80 or so of them. And they looked at and studied the health of these ecosystems and found that many of them were impaired. This was an effort with Massachusetts DEP, the University of Massachusetts, Dartmouth, and many of the southeastern Mass communities were involved in this. What was discovered is that there was excessive nitrogen that was contaminating the coastal estuaries. One of the classic examples of what is happening or what can happen, and there's many different things that could happen, but I'm going to talk about one in general. Excessive nitrogen can cause an excessive growth of algae in the water body. And then when that excessive amount of algae dies, it leads to an excessive amount of microorganisms that come to degrade that or eat that algae. And those microorganisms require oxygen to survive. And what happens is they pull oxygen out of the water, and when you pull too much oxygen from the water, that leaves less for the fish, and that's what leads to a fish kill. There's other things that can happen, but that's the cycle of what's happening and what you can see in the water bodies when you have too much of something like nitrogen in this case. So it leads to what's called an environmental imbalance. So with this, each town was required to figure out how to solve the problem, and each town would do a study, as the town of Mashpee did. And also, you end up working with your neighbors too, because watersheds don't know municipal boundaries. So the town is working with the town of Barnstable and Sandwich and Falmouth on the major watersheds in town. So from the studies that the state did, they determined where is all the nitrogen coming from. This is a pie chart, and it shows you on the side here where all those sources of nitrogen are. And you could see with this orange color, the overall load is mostly coming from septic systems. More importantly, though, is we can't control all of these sources. So this pie chart on the bottom here shows the sources that we can control. And what you see is in orange are septic systems, impervious surfaces, which is stormwater, and then lawn fertilizers. So all of these sources are part of the town plan to try to control, to solve the nitrogen problem. So as you're all aware, the town completed a plan in 2015. It's currently being updated. It was a 20-year plan. In 2021, the Conservation Law Foundation filed a lawsuit against the town of Barnstable, the town of Mashpee, and the Massachusetts Department of Environmental Protection. They did that primarily because things weren't moving fast enough to solve this problem. In 2023, the settlement that was determined for this lawsuit was for the state to modify the state regulations that essentially put all the towns on a time frame to solve this problem. So prior to 2023, it was up to the towns to set their own schedule. Now there's a schedule that's in place. All right, so that's the background on the nitrogen. More recently, as you've heard alluded to, there was a diagnostic study that was completed on the Mashpee-Wakeby pond system. And we've talked about this before, but I did want to bring it up as an overview again. What was determined is that primarily that phosphorus is one of the contaminants that needs to be dealt with. For internal loads, there's an alum treatment program that the town is looking to start to initiate. And then for external loads, the septic systems were determined to be the primary culprit for the phosphorus loads. So again, nitrogen and phosphorus, both of them being contributed from wastewater sources, primarily from Title V systems, and that's the problem that we're trying to solve with this project. We showed this early on. This, again, is not a town document, but what it does show, and what I wanted to talk in a little bit more detail about, is the wells north of the town line here. I mentioned when we met 2 weeks ago that we're doing a hydrogeological model as part of this project. It's a requirement for the groundwater discharge permit that's reviewed and issued by the state. What I wanted to do is talk a little bit more about this model. So the model is I had mentioned that we're doing the model, and we are, but there's a lot more to that answer that I'd like to talk about. So first of all, the model itself has a base model that is developed by the United States Geological Survey. It's very specific to this area. It's a regional groundwater flow model that's developed for the Sagamore lens of the Cape Cod aquifer. This is a model that is updated every so often, but it forms the basis for the hydrogeological studies that are done for groundwater discharge permits on the Cape. In addition to that, the state sets guidelines on how these models need to be modified to accommodate specific scenarios, as we're doing here. And this is a 2023 groundwater discharge permit hydrogeologic review scope of work guidance document. So both of those are the foundation of what is being done to develop the hydrogeological model. Once the model is completed, it's submitted to the state, and the state hydrogeologist reviews the results. And I wanted to emphasize, I mentioned this last time, but public and private wells are part of the modeling that's done here. So in addition to the state being involved, the Mashpee Health Department is also involved in the review of this work. This is a preliminary model, but what I wanted to talk about here, I was trying to describe this 2 weeks ago, and this is much more helpful. So I want to tell you what you're looking at here. So these lines here, this 65 and the 63 and the 61, these are what are called groundwater contours. They represent an elevation relative to sea level. So this 65 is 65 feet above sea level, 63 feet above sea level, 61 feet. So you can see the groundwater elevation is decreasing. This is a down gradient is what we call this. And you can see that the modeling is indicating that the flow from this discharge site would be to the south down gradient.
Mr. Drainville, and I don't want to be flippant and I don't want to be sarcastic, but if there should be a takeaway here, I believe what you're trying to emphasize is water flows downhill. And if you take a look at the studies, some of the concerns that have been raised, which I don't blame anyone for being concerned with, have been alleviated by this type of examination.
And this is similar to downhill. I use the term down gradient, but it's a similar concept. A couple of other, again, we're trying to respond to questions as they come in, but a couple of other questions that were raised. Why did we choose this particular area shown for the subsurface system? And you know, the essential reason is we're trying to minimize the area of disturbance. That's the basic reason why that area was chosen. Because the person who had asked the question asked, you know, why aren't we looking somewhere else to put the subsurface system? And we're trying to keep the system as compact as we can. We were also asked to break out the area. The subsurface treatment system is projected to be less than 1 acre, and the leaching system area is less than 6 acres. The whole system we've been indicating to be less than 7 acres. The access road, which we had been showing for here, this road is on a conservation property. The reason this had come up is that the road in Sandwich is a private road, and we want to just mention that the road on the conservation property, which this is the conservation property here, that road on the conservation property in Mashpee has pre-existing access rights to John Ewer Road. This is currently being reviewed by the town attorney, but we just wanted to mention why we had been looking to use this as the access to the site. Wanted to mention we are in the process of adding the Sandwich properties on here. That was requested at the last meeting, so that's...
I'm sorry, a question, since you my first question. This green color is where the waste treatment plant will be established. Leaching and stuff. The green
It's a leaching system.
leaching system.
Yeah.
This land, is it conservation? Is it open space? Is it whatever? Is it owned by somebody?
It's owned by the town.
It's town-owned
Is it
property.
open space? Is it conservation land?
It is not conservation land. It was part of a open space for a subdivision. It did have deeded restrictions on it, the deeded restrictions expired after 30 years.
The last thing I had is, we did get a couple of requests to provide a copy of the SRF application. What I wanted to do is just, we are putting this or assembling something so we can make it available to everybody. This is an online portal that the state creates for submitting these documents. And, you know, what it is it is a series of attachments. There are 5 pages of attachments. The entire document's 4,000 pages. We're assembling this as an electronic document, and it will be made available electronically to anybody who requests it. So it is a large document that we're assembling and trying to make the size as small as we can, but we will make that available to anybody who does ask for it. And that's all we had for tonight.
Anyone else with final comments?
No, it's just that the financial opportunities and some of the financial information are available in handouts right outside here as you exit.
Okay, at this point, I'd like to open it up for questions so everybody can hear you. You're invited to go to the mic. If you want to just stand and not go to the mic, or you're unable to go to the mic, then just speak as loud as you can so that everybody can hear, and we are being televised. I should say it's not live. It's being recorded by Mashpee TV, and it will be put on YouTube at a later date. Go right ahead. You're up next, Lynn.
Dennis Belzerini. I have a few questions, and I want to thank everybody up there. You're doing an excellent job. I came to the town last week and asked questions, and they were answered really nice. But my question, out of the 240 homes, how many are second homes? Okay, why I'm asking that plant needs so much fluid to go into it to run properly. Now, if half the homes are summer homes, you're not going to get that intake into that plant. Is the plant going to work properly? Well, my question probably would be, how much fluid has to go into this treatment plant to run properly? Is it 100 gallons every day, or could it?
So one of the things we do have water use data that's available to us. That's what we actual water consumption data. So we do have that information available. I don't know how many are second homes, but we do know how much water is being used.
Oh, you do? So that's all year, you know how much water is being used, so the plant's going to run properly?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, my last question is, I'd like to see this happen. If it passes, I'd like to see, we plant stuff to be, like, put bird boxes up there and bat boxes and butterfly bushes and all pollinating plants, so people won't have the feeling we lost this nice, wonderful woodland. Now we got something that creatures are coming to, the bees and stuff. I hope that's something that we can do with this plant if it passes at town meeting.
And if it does pass, Dennis, that is exactly what the town's objective is, if it passes.
Oh, good. Okay, thank you.
Lynn?
Somewhere I saw, but I don't think I have it, but they didn't see it tonight, exactly how many homes will be tied into this wastewater system? Because we see the map as it goes around.
Yes, that number has been
So,
referenced.
it was at a prior meeting. I think it's being designed for up to, I think it's up to 220 homes. I forget the exact number, but we did have it in the last meeting. Yeah, so something like that.
It's around that, Lynn.
Is that going to be all the homes highlighted in green on your map from Mashpee-Wakeby?
The intention is for the homes in Mashpee, the properties that are in Mashpee, that rectangular, general rectangular area.
Yes, that's actually the number one concern that every wastewater operator in the state of Massachusetts has right now. Rhode Island traditionally is like our closest point to be delivering it, and Rhode Island is currently trying to kick out every other state, mainly because of PFAS. New York is a common area, but they're shutting down as well, and a lot of places are actually shipping out as far as Ohio. During the last Open Cape Conference, or One Cape, One Cape, excuse me, One Cape Conference, we had an opportunity to bring this up at to the Southeast Regional Director of the DEP, as well as Matt Kennedy from Converge, and we had made a suggestion that the base create a regional solids handling facility that can handle all this, including destruction of PFAS, gasification, biodiesel. There's a lot of options they have available to them. And because of Converge's recent setback with the DEP as far as not able to recharge more is now an option they are looking into, and they've actually reached out to all the wastewater department superintendents on the Cape for our support in this process. So we are absolutely working towards getting rid of it because that is our primary concern.
Just to clarify, that is a private facility located on Joint Base Cape Cod, not affiliated with the federal government. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Follow up to your why now slide. Could you please comment on why, on the sequencing of this project vis-a-vis opportunities to do sewers in other parts of town, specifically the Wakeby basin or Bay area? And also, maybe comment on, there's some rhetoric going around that sort of implies that this project is displacing opportunities to sewer elsewhere. I wonder if you might comment on that. I'm happy to take that. So let me just mention what's happening, what else is happening. I did a comprehensive presentation for the sewer commissioners on all of the work that's happening on the wastewater front a couple weeks ago. But there is currently planning work that's being done for the Wakeby watershed right now. We are in pursuit of what's called a groundwater recharge site. That's how we return the treated water to the groundwater table. That's the biggest challenge that we have in town right now. We have some preliminary sites identified. We have another couple of sites that we're looking at, but that has been underway, and the planning has been underway for Wakeby. So that it's not displacing this. We couldn't do it right now in this moment if we wanted to, because we don't have the sites that we need yet. So why is this project going before that project? So this project helps to reduce nitrogen and phosphorus, and we have an opportunity to recharge the water into the groundwater table. We have that opportunity. It's a small amount of water, and I could talk about the challenges. I'll reference my discussion to the Sewer Commission where I described all the challenges that we face, but we don't face some of the challenges that we face elsewhere because the amount of water that we're sending into the groundwater table is quite small compared to the other sites that we have.
And we also don't want to miss an opportunity for funding. And right now, we are in that window as we speak, assuming we get approved.
So my understanding is if we don't do this project, this money is lost to us forever.
It's,
Or maybe. I mean, we're not going to get another.
there's no assurance.
Okay. I think you've answered a lot of my questions. I have another question
That's-
right now. Karen, can you use the mic?
Can you,
Behind.
we can bring you the mic.
Yeah, let me walk around. I'll just hand everybody the mic so people I can do that.
Thank you. Have you obtained permission from Sandwich for the access?
Just gonna,
Okay. Have you obtained permission from Sandwich for the access road? What is exactly the holdup? I mean, is it yes, is it no, maybe? What is the issue?
okay. I don't want to get into the cart before the horse, but I will say, if anyone has a parcel on a particular road, then the presumption is you would have access through that road to get to your parcel. Obviously, the town has a parcel, we've taken a look at where the road is, but we also want to be certain that access would be granted to the town through legal, and right now, that is pending.
So if perhaps you don't get access to it, you have another place to come in to access.
I don't want to
Okay,
go that far.
all right. Well, will the actual system be in the same place, the same general area,
Yes,
no matter what?
yes,
The access might be different, but the plant itself will be in that area as shown on the map.
we want to keep the plan exactly as has been articulated that everybody has seen.
You were talking about, Mr. Drainville, you were talking about groundwater modeling. I don't quite understand that, but that's, the question is, you have not yet provided the state with your groundwater modeling? Yes?
It goes in with the application, we have not yet.
You don't have to, I mean, is there a concern that maybe you won't be able to provide a proper modeling? In other words, to show you will not contaminate the wells?
I'm not concerned about it. I want to make sure everybody's aware of this, that, you know, we would not put the public health at risk. That's not going to happen.
Okay, so there's not an issue really with the modeling?
No, the state's aware of the wells in the area. We just haven't submitted the model to them yet.
Okay. Okay, let me see if I understand this, and if I'm wrong.
You just
it's
hold the
only
mic a
please.
little bit closer. There you go.
Okay, the proposed cluster system will remove all but 3 milliliters of nitrogen. Is that a correct statement?
Per
And
liter, per liter.
Per liter, yes, oh, absolutely. And will remove all but 1 milligram 1 milligram per liter of phosphorus. Yes?
Correct.
The 3 milligrams of liters of nitrogen never gets into Wakeby Mashpee ponds. Is that right? Because only phosphorus doesn't make it into the ponds.
So the nitrogen will, the 3
will-
milligrams per liter, that will carry into the
Okay,
ponds.
we'll go
yeah.
with that, that's little amount,
Yep.
little amount.
We would expect the remaining phosphorus, a lot of the remaining phosphorus from the plant to be taken up in the soils.
Okay.
But that will be monitored, though.
All right, so the 1 milligram of phosphorus is not going to reach the pond. It'll never get into the pond.
So let me give a long answer to that, if you allow me, okay?
Okay, sure.
So our plan is that we would monitor the groundwater for the levels of phosphorus. If we detected those levels to be higher than expected, we can add another small component to the treatment process to drop the level even further. So we do expect the soils to take up some of the phosphorus, though.
So the last part of this is, my understanding is that this plan will reduce 4% bring the TMDL into Pompanesett Bay by 4%. Is that right?
It would bring us 4% closer to the goal.
Okay. So Jared, my question to you is, how is removing this 4% of nitrogen from Pompanesett Bay financially sound for a project of this cost?
So in itself, the nitrogen reduction, I would say the 25 million would not be justified. But the phosphorus removal is that added benefit that makes it a good project. But if, let's say we didn't do it here, we're still looking at a giant 20-plus year plan. Every year that we go on, that cost increases. So we have an opportunity to pull out 4% here. That's going to save us money at whatever percent. I haven't looked at the CPI index, but whatever percent increase over 20 years will be removed because we're paying for it now. So I always use the little line that it's never cheaper than it is today. So if we can find the opportunities to do some of these smaller 4 or 5% because of difficult areas, that is money that we would save 20 years down the road with all cost inflations.
And it is a saving in other areas in town.
Yeah, there are other areas of town, some included in the Phase 2, which is currently under construction, that are somewhat similar to this area in that they're adjacent to Santuit. And Phase 3 is going to have some that are near ponds also. We can't escape the proximity to ponds with sewering. We can't take all the nitrogen out without going into areas like this where we're going to be adjacent to ponds. That's just part of there's too many ponds in the town.
Yeah, and I
So-
think that the focus on nitrogen is 4%. I mean, we have to take into consideration the phosphorus here and the removal of the phosphorus loading to Mashpee-Wakeby Basin in particular. I mean, I go back to Phase 2 of the sewer project. The watershed within Santuit Pond, which is an extremely impaired pond here in Mashpee, was bumped up in phases because we knew that the area of watershed was directly affecting Santuit Pond. So that area was bumped up. It was no longer a Phase 3 or 4, it was in Phase 2. So not only was the town thinking about other freshwater bodies then, we're thinking of our freshwater bodies now.
And this could also be a model for, like, say, future subdivisions that somebody might propose to put in of, okay, before we say, okay, here's your subdivision, here's your land, but now we can say, here's your study, here's your land, you need to also build a plan based off of this model. And now we have real-time cost estimates for developers, plus anything the town wants to do. If we run into a tight area, we can start putting together ideas like, we know what this cost is gonna be, let's just build a sub-plant, as opposed to trying to figure out how to run miles and miles and miles of pipe.
And remember, the town as all the towns on Cape Cod, are under a 20-year mandate to remove 75% of the nitrogen. So this is another step toward removing, so with the other parts of the plan, we're getting closer to 50% with the phases that have already been identified.
If this job is completed, what percentage will we have reached or anticipated to have reached?
So in Pompanesett Bay, if this project passes, we would be around a little bit over 45% for Pompanesett Bay. And then Wakeby would be the next watershed to tackle, so.
Okay, there was a hand up here first.
Hi, my name is Colleen. I just wanted to kind of follow up on one of the questions that was just asked. It does sound like the town has done more research into the access road, but we're still waiting for confirmation from the legal department that you have access because of that conservation land. Is that correct?
Yes, so that piece of property, when it was put into conservation, part of the conservation, the deed, says that the road is still to be maintained or can be used for public access. Not that we're using the whole road, we just want to use a sliver. But what that brought up was the fact that that John Ewer Road actually goes well into that property before it turns to Peter's Path. It was actually on the original plan, and conservation filed that. So the argument that we take is that this was all John Ewer Road. We're residents of John Ewer Road, therefore we have access rights to John Ewer Road. But we want to make sure legal looks at it and says yes or no. I mean, we're just making assumptions, but they'll give us the definitive response.
And I just wanted to follow that up with, during the first meeting just about a month ago, I had asked about backup plans if for some reason we don't have access to that. So what research, if any, has been done into a backup plan and a different route if for some reason the legal department does not say that we can use it?
I would venture to say that if we don't have access to this road, it might kill this project because the topography of that lot to get there would require a lot more infrastructure work, bringing in fill, shoring up hills, and it might put us well out of our budget.
Okay, so essentially if we don't have access to this, the project likely won't happen, and that's why alternatives haven't been researched that much?
Oh, they've been
Well, we've
researched, just
researched them.
nothing's coming out
Okay.
cost effective at this point.
Okay, I had another question regarding the plan that's been shown. Is that the plan that was submitted to the SRF for the 90% plan?
So that was the plan that was submitted to SRF. It's not 90%, but that's what the plan that was submitted, so.
Okay, maybe I misunderstood, but my understanding was that there needed to be a 90% plan submitted early this month to the SRF for the funding. Is that correct, or
The
not?
plan that's submitted is this, we indicate the status of the plan at the time that it's submitted. So it was, I just want to make sure it's not 90%. We still have to go through the groundwater discharge permit application process. You know, we made a change in this project within the past month to go to a subsurface disposal system. So that pivot is requiring us to redesign that area, and so that particular part of the project is not at 90%. So.
When does the final plan have to be submitted for the funding?
So typically, it could be at the end of the year, it could be January timeframe.
Okay, so there's no set date at this point for the final plan in place for the funding?
So what happens with the SRF program is you submit an application, that's this thing that I was mentioning here, and the state will come back with a letter saying, okay, here are the things that you still owe us, and we have to provide those documents to them as they come in. We have a date that we have to meet in the end, which is to have a contractor signed up by June 30th of next year, and so everything has to work within that time frame.
Okay, thank you.
No, this lady had her hand up first. I'm
Hi.
trying to go in the order of who I see first.
Hey, listen, I'm all for this, for the phosphorus removal, and that's wonderful. I live in a pond, and we need to get the phosphorus out of the water. But I do have a question on the way. Mark, you clarified the nitrogen reduction. You said it was 4% of the goal, meaning 4% of 20% or 4% of the entire goal that the town has to reach?
So let me clarify. Each watershed has its own TMDL, its own nitrogen goal. The 4% is towards the ultimate Pompanesett goal, not the entire town goal. It's towards the goal for Pompanesett Bay. That's the watershed that we're working in now.
So this will affect 4% of that goal?
Correct.
Okay.
And that's when I mentioned we're a little bit above 45% towards that nitrogen goal. That's Pompanesett Bay.
Okay, thank you.
This gentleman.
So I'm on Deerfield Road. We all know that this piece of Mashpee is totally surrounded by sandwich. My neighbor's house is on the cul-de-sac at the end. I can throw a stone from their front yards to the backyards of the houses on John Muir Road, which are in Sandwich. If this gets approved, and if we take off 220 septic systems, and Sandwich does nothing with all those properties still in that area with septic systems, just how much of an improvement are we going to see in the ponds?
So I will say that most of that area that surrounds this pocket of Mashpee is slated to be addressed by Sandwich. Two weeks ago, I showed the Sandwich plan, and you're surrounded by areas that would be addressed by Sandwich. I couldn't tell you exactly when, but they will be addressed.
I didn't realize that Sandwich had something going on.
Yeah, and that's properties to the north, to just clarify, north of the system. So whether phosphorus loading parcels are being looked at in our intermunicipal meetings with the town of Sandwich. North of our proposed area, yes, those parcels are not contributing phosphorus to Mashpee-Wakeby, if that makes sense, directly. So the places we're sewering are directly within the 300-foot buffer. Those parcels were called out in the diagnostic assessments, and those parcels are being addressed in partnership with the town of Sandwich through the intermunicipal agreement for future phases.
Hold on, Lynn, I got a lady over here.
So, PJ from Sandwich. The proposed map that you are putting in front for a vote, that is within 150 feet of my well. So it is going to have to move. So what you're proposing, it can't be where you're proposing it. So are people going to know that they're not going to actually, it's not actually going to be where you have it on the map?
So your up gradient of everything that we're doing is down gradient, and everything is flowing away from your well. As I said earlier, we would be going through the Mashpee Health Department and the state, and any approval would come through them.
So how
So-
close do you plan to get if it's closer than 150 feet?
So the system hasn't been laid out yet, but I don't have the number exactly, but it's probably going to be no closer than 100 feet.
And you're allowed to do that?
So, the difference between a standard, leaching field being installed on a property and having that separation from a drinking water well, and what we're doing is we're doing a hydrogeological model that shows everybody exactly what's happening to what we're doing underground. That doesn't happen when you just put a property in and put a well in a leaching field. So that's the difference between, this and just a normal property development, okay?
Okay. I do think when you're pumping 240 homes of septic in the backyard, it needs to stay a safe distance away. And I just want to comment, when you said this area was less disturbing, I would argue that less disturbing area would be connecting to existing septic systems that you have in Mashpee and not blowing out this area for the septic system.
Another thing, just so people are aware, one of the things we're required to do whenever we do any type of recharge is we have to put in monitoring wells, up gradient and down gradient of the site. We have to monitor before we actually build it, if we go forward with this project, and then we monitor continuously, basically forever. And if that ever changes as a result of, let's say, it goes against what the model's saying, it does have to start pollute your well, we would end up having to be responsible to make sure, whether it be tie you into a town water supply at our expense, so we don't just sit there and say, hey, it's in there, now your water's polluted, and, well, sorry, that's not our problem, it's our problem. We own it, but it will be monitored at least 4 times a year. It's quarterly monitoring, and we test for everything when we do it. So it's a very in-depth process.
And could I just emphasize one more time, we would not do anything that impacts public health. I mean, that's not going to happen. This is an environmental project, but we're not going to be negatively impacting the public health with this.
So, Mark, just to clarify, I think that there's, the 150 feet is a regulatory
Yep.
framework for Title V. That is,
Right.
Title V standard leaching systems are zero treatment at 52 milligrams per liter nitrogen. So is it safe to say that's not applicable here?
It's a different situation. We would have to go through the Mashpee Health Department to get an approval, because we would still be within the 150 feet, but it's a very different situation because we're doing hydrogeological modeling, demonstrating that we're not going to impact the well.
Last meeting, I asked a question about the Board of Health and the 150-foot buffer. Did you speak to the Board of Health on that matter? Because it seems like a pretty quick, easy conversation to have with the Board of Health to get their opinion.
We have.
And what was the findings?
So I don't feel comfortable speaking on their behalf, but we have gone to speak with them, and I'm confident to say that that's why I mentioned today that we would be going through them as part of this process.
And then just in regard to the well buffer zones, the state mandates a setback of 100 feet from leaching fields. I understand that's in the Title V, 100%. Last time I spoke and was asking the questions, I wasn't 100% educated. But unless they've revised these regulations and guidelines, I was reading up on the Mass DEP regulations for wastewater discharge permits, which you guys have to get. And they're very explicit on the required setbacks. And that same setback from the leaching field is listed there, 100 feet, which would imply what you're saying, isn't 100% accurate, that you guys do, in fact, have to honor the setback of 100 feet from wells, which I can tell you, I think you're right beyond 100 feet from my well, and I think you're a little bit more from their well right here.
So let me mention something about the layout that you've seen. We're looking at a more efficiently laid out system, a smaller layout. So what we're showing is something that we would look to not go beyond, but we're looking at more efficient layouts to work within any limits that we would need to.
So you're saying that you do have a limit of 100 feet from wells?
So
I'm just curious, because you're
No.
even saying that you don't have to
So-
abide by the
so
100-foot setback.
So if we can stay away, we will. Otherwise, we'd have to go through the health department to get their consent.
And then,
If I could just add, obviously, the Board of Health is a regulatory authority. If they require us to do something, we're not going to say no, whether it be DEP or whoever. We're going to comply with any regulatory authority, and obviously, we're not going to violate any provision that we're subject to.
I would hope so, and obviously it would get flagged by Mass DEP, but I just don't think it's, very good for you guys to, show a plan that is going to have to get moved, especially if you guys know, in fact, that where you're showing the leaching field can, in fact, go where it's shown.
So so when we first put this project together with sand beds, the abutter said we don't want sand beds. So we went to a subsurface and we've said that it is larger. Now, when we say subsurface, we're presenting on this map the worst case subsurface, standard leaching field. There are other technologies, we just haven't gotten permission yet. So what we're trying to show is that this is the worst case scenario, or the largest size for this leaching field. But there are other technologies. Mark mentioned last meeting, geotech. That's a technology that's actually been approved for smaller systems, but not to this size yet. We're going to approach that. So that is the worst case build out. We're very confident that it's going to be a different type of system, but we have to show it because that's been what's been asked by the abutters. Show us this area, how much land is going to be taken, and that was the ultimate goal in the beginning. This has now since evolved because, Sandwich had questions and we're trying to explain it, but it's.
I get that, and I think you should be conservative, so I think it's good if you're going to try to minimize it as best you can.
Yep.
But I also don't think that it's good to show your conservative area where you can't put it. What I'm seeing is your conservative area go down.
Could you just use the mics, please?
Your conservative area that you have shown, from what I've gathered, looking at Mass DEP, guidelines and speaking to some professionals, is that you can't, in fact, put it within 100 feet. Mass DEP, mentions in these guidelines that local authorities, the Board of Health, can mandate stricter enforcements, which they have 150 feet. But regardless, you're still in the 100 feet buffer, call it 100, 150 feet. That conservative area of your leaching field, regardless, is going to have to shift 100 feet south.
So what I would say to you is that we are working with the Mashpee Board of Health and with the state, and neither of them would approve something that risks public health, and we wouldn't venture down that path either. So we're confident that we're gonna find something that's not going to impact the public health.
Yes.
So, my name is Kevin Schofield, 31 Gunters. I have a number of questions, but I'll stick to a well-related question. And before you guys report me to the water department, I've been fully cleared by them again. So, what's the impact to my well going to be? As I am directly in the orange section of your map that you've shown.
So you have a drinking water well?
I have a well hooked up to my house.
So you never use town water?
I have town water, but I can turn on my well, and what's the impact going to be to the water that comes out of that well?
I got to be frank with you, Mr. Schofield. I am not aware until your information that somebody was on town water and had a well. Okay?
That's a regular thing.
Irrigation well.
But I'm
Irrigation.
talking about, are you talking about drinking water? I'm familiar with an irrigation system.
I mean, any water in your house can be drinking water.
Well, and I'm not going to try to get into an argument here, but I'm just not familiar with drinking water. The only thing that I'm familiar with is like an irrigation system.
I don't have an irrigation system.
Okay. So I guess the question that you had is whether or not, okay, if we can just have a little order here. I guess the question is, and I just want to get it clear, is this going to have an impact on your well?
Yes. Can I
Yes.
use that water?
Oh, hold on. Do you want to answer that?
I don't know what the current condition of your well is, and I don't want to answer that because I don't have any background information. That's why, like, when we say we put in monitoring wells, we try to get a baseline of what it is before we do anything to impact it. I do not know currently what the impact of the water quality is under the ground there right now, so I can't say if we're going to make it better or worse or indifferent.
So it is part of the groundwater modeling exercise, or the model itself, to include any drinking water wells in the system, in the area. I guess I'm a little puzzled by the situation here. I might have to talk to you afterward to understand exactly what this well is used for, but.
When you tie into town water, you have to disconnect your well, and it can't be tied into the house once you get town water. You can use it for your garden if you want to keep it running, but you have to cut the pipe,
That's what I thought.
and you can't use that for drinking water once you have town water.
That's what I thought.
So that clears that up. Water company to come out and cut your pipe. Well, they didn't. They did.
Go.
They wouldn't hook up your pipe.
Okay.
All right, I'm not gonna argue with you.
Yeah, well, let's not have an argument in the audience. Sir?
Brian Clifford, 2 John Ewer Road. I just want to go back to the access road.
Yes.
So your access is directly next to my driveway. So looking at your overheads, you're going to have to build a construction road in from Gunther's Lane because that's where you're putting your sewer lines in. So why wouldn't, since you're building a construction road there to put the pipes in, why wouldn't you be making that the entrance? Is it to make it more palatable to the Gunther's Lane people so they don't get the trucks? And the other thing is that when you look at the overall plan, you've put it right up against the sandwich line, right up against our line, and you've left a very large area between Gunther's Lane people and the plant. Is that to make it more palatable for town meeting? And the third question is, the map that you had, the picture you had up in the very beginning that you said wasn't from the town, it's not from me either, but is there something that's inaccurate about it?
So one thing I want to mention that you're not going to see on any of the figures because we took the contours off, but there are some very large holes on the site, and we're trying to use areas that aren't in those big holes. And the access from Gunter's, we looked at that initially, and it would require an extensive regrading as well as potential impact on the buffer to the wetland. Putting the pipes through, but it's different to actually have access for a vehicle. Putting pipes is a lot easier to do. I forget the last.
And I mean, in all honesty, it was there. The residents said, can you find somewhere else? Originally, we didn't even bother looking somewhere else. We thought, hey, this is a straight shot. When we looked, we're like, this is actually a better way to come in. Safer, less work, for grading the roads, reinforcing the roads. But we're putting a pipe under the ground. We can directional drill that if we need to and not disturb the above surface area. And we don't have to worry about somebody rolling off the side of a road and getting washed out into a bottom of a very deep hole. So it ended up actually being the better decision after the residents had just said, hey, we don't want it here. So we looked, and
Okay, hold on. Sir, you had another question that I
Yeah.
don't think got answered.
The map that you put up at the very beginning, you said wasn't from the town.
Right.
There's something inaccurate about it.
It was showing acreage on there. That's not something that we developed or have been speaking to, so that's why I didn't want to, it didn't come from us because the acreage didn't come from us, so.
Yeah, no-
I can't tell you everything on there, but that's one thing I just wanted to point out.
And I'll say, like, one of them right off the bat is a very obvious one. We won't get into the actual area, but if you look where the area is supposed to be for the piping, whoever wrote it decided to include that as part of the area that.
Can you hold the mic closer to you?
Oh, sorry. That area that's in red, they decided to include that in there in the total area mass, and that is not what we've proposed, and that's why we just said we don't want people thinking that we're gonna, that extension out right there. Because we've said that everything in the dotted area that we put on there, everything south or outside the plant area is gonna be turned into Article 97 conservation land, is the ultimate goal. So that's just the main thing. We didn't go measure it all. I mean, I thought it was a great map. It's other reason why we brought it in, because whoever did do it did a very good job, at least laying where the wells are, and that helped us try to at least explain better. We thought, okay, we could use it, but it's definitely not ours.
Hi, my name's Dennis Driscoll. I'm a seasonal resident on John Ewer Road at Dunroman Campground Association. Okay, my name's Dennis Driscoll. I live on John Ewer Road, and Dunroman Campground is at the top of that road, and I am the president, I'm the current president of the Board of Directors. We had a meeting last week. We talked a little bit about it. We saw our pictures and whatnot, and I was asked to come and represent them tonight. So I put together a short statement, if you indulge me. We represent Dunroman Beach Club Association Incorporated, which is...
If you could just hold the mic
which is
a little bit
cooperatively owned,
closer.
a cooperatively owned campground located on John Ewer Road, Sandwich, Mass. Our property is located on the west side of Katuitt and extends from Katuitt Road to the State Boat Ramp. That section of John Ewer Road is a privately owned road in Sandwich. Dunroman Campground is part owner of it. The state also has their boat ramp down there. We are part owners of that section of road, and we oppose plans to use that section of road as the access for the construction of your new facility, respectfully. The road is already in a state of disrepair, and the additional heavy traffic will only worsen that condition. Also, we have concerns about the real potential for a negative impact on both the boat ramp access to the pond, and more importantly, the possibility of a catastrophic impact on Peters Pond. And the safety of the guests at the campground who walk along the side of John Ewer Road to get back and forth. There's a lot of pedestrian traffic from the neighbors to get down to the boat ramp area. While we are in support of resolving your Mashpee problem with groundwater pollutants, and we really are, it seems that there are other alternatives to accessing your site. Respectfully, for Dunroman Beach Club Association Incorporated, Dennis Driscoll for the Board of Directors.
Thank you, sir. Is there any specificity to the catastrophic perception?
Say again,
Is there any specificity to what you were concerned about being potentially catastrophic?
Well, we talked about groundwater. Going, water goes where it's easy to go. If anybody has ever been there, what's taking place up at the top of the hill, everything aims down to Peters Pond. When it makes it to that road, it goes directly down the boat ramp and into that pond. That is, anybody who's ever been there during a rainstorm understands that.
Good evening, Greg McKelvey, Mashpee. A couple of questions to clarify. We talked about the SRF funding earlier, and my question is...
Just hold that a little closer.
Sure.
Thanks.
My question is, if the town does not pass this, my understanding is we lose that funding for this round. Is that correct, at 0% interest?
That is correct.
And we can't just turn around and ask the state to use that money for another project or another part of a project, can we?
We cannot. It's all competitive based on the specific project.
Right, right. And so, that said, I've heard it said that that there's, this plan was adopted in 2015, and it wasn't in the plan in 2015. But my understanding is that plans change, data changes, and it's okay to change plans if the state agrees to what we submit. Is that true?
Yeah, in fact, the Cape Cod Commission wrote a letter of support for this project that it is consistent with the town's nitrogen planning.
So it's not unusual that plans might change.
That's our position.
Okay, great. Another thing is, if this does not pass town meeting, I've assumed is the town just going to go ahead and borrow some money at a regular interest rate to do this project?
Well, if it doesn't pass, then the problem that's been identified is not going away. So now we've got to fix it through other means.
That leads to
And I dare submit that it's probably going to be more costly.
right. That leads to my next question is about the environment. If nothing is done to this pond and the waters there, what happens in the future to that pond? And does it continue to be a degrading problem for the environment for that pond? Thank you.
We will continue to have to treat the pond with aluminum sulfate, which is a chemical application to render the phosphorus useless at the bottom. We've seen that at Shumet Pond. Shumet Pond is now on its third alum treatment. It is receiving no sewering, and hence why we're on our third treatment of aluminum sulfate. So that will become a reoccurrence if these projects are not in place and then those properties are not taken offline. And that goes for all properties that are abutting freshwater ponds, not just these.
My name's Charles Horman. I'm a Sandwich resident. Since we're at a historic low water tables, when you do the hydrogeological testing and these test wells, does this modeling take in consideration future high water tables and plus the effect of the added water?
Yeah, the state requires that the modeling be done at high water level.
The high water level, okay. Second question, I heard the statement earlier, I didn't realize, you said when you put that land into conservation at the end of John Ewer going out to Pimlico Pond, that you have the right, you're supposed to maintain public access, is that correct?
Can you use the mic?
Use the mic.
So what they said in the deed when they put it into conservation was the wishes were for that road to be able to be accessed if needed. So it wasn't like it was, oh, this is now an inaccessible road, let's chop it off. But years later, there was a gate that was put up there. You've probably seen it. Yes, that gate was actually put in by conservation because of a complaint that residents were making about motorcycles and dirt bikes and off-road, and that's why they put it there. But it is an accessible road according to the deed. That's what actually we're having the attorneys look at. Is truly what it says.
Can you use the mic?
So now you're just waiting for the legal determination to see if that, and you haven't talked to anybody else from Sandwich about this, about the access to John Ewer? You're just, your own determination by your lawyers?
So what the lawyers are trying to determine is so if the road John Ewer came all the way down and it was made 100 years ago, you can't have residents come up and say, hey, you know what, we're going to make this area private, we're not going to let you pass to your house anymore. You can't do that. So what we're trying to find out is because John Ewer Road came down, are these lots considered part of John Ewer Road and therefore had right of access? That's what they're trying to determine.
Thanks. Sean O'Connor and Cation Way. I have two questions. Can you pull up the topographical map? I think, yeah. Not that one, the other one. This one right here. I'm not sure if people are getting and I know it's not the town map, but if you look at the elevation lines, I don't know if people are really getting the idea of this at the end of Gunter's. Do you have any numbers as to how far the end of Gunter's is? How far is that above sea level? How far is the hole? And how far is the distance? So if you're thinking like a triangle, because that is a steep steep incline. And when you were saying it would require fill, it's gonna require, you can't imagine the amount of fill. You're gonna have to build a road that looks like the Beachcomber or Wellfleet. I mean, that site is not accessible. You know, so when we look at it, you say, well, can you just go down Gunter's? No. I don't see, that is a, as you said, that is a project busting expense. And that you couldn't even predict how much that would cost. And the liability of trying to get a road down that cliff, okay? The second thing is all big projects are subject to change. So as we get closer to town meeting, how close will we have to a final project that people can actually vote on? And if there are changes, what's the process for that for the abutters, for people in town? I mean, if it gets voted in and, you know, the site conditions say, wow, we're really gonna have to do this, and legal said we have to do this, and Sandwich would like this, what does that process look like once we've already voted on what we think is gonna be the plan? Thank you.
So one thing that I'll mention as far as, and this is not a good figure for me to have up, but the so this is what we've done with this is define the area that we're looking to work within. So the changes that we're looking to make those changes from within that area. So that's, things are going to change from within our treatment system potentially. As I mentioned, we're trying to lay this out in a more efficient way, but we are working to keep the area less than 7 acres. That's the overall goal.
Stand. Hi, thank you for taking comment. My name is Chris Dennis. I live on Evson Drive in Sandwich, and I also have 2 properties on Park Road in Mashpee, which happen to be part of this sewering project. I'm also president of Friends of Peters Pond in Sandwich, and I just wanted to address something that was brought up in previous meetings a couple of times. There were some comments made about instead of using this area for sewering, perhaps tapping into or using the wastewater treatment plant at Village Green. For those of you that don't know, Village Green is a proposed 40B development that is in between Route 130, Pimlico Pond Road, and Peters Pond. I have been following this closely, and I think people should know that the owners of this particular piece of land have had multiple plans before the town of Sandwich since 2009, and none of them have come to fruition. The most recent is this 40B development called Village Green, and their wastewater treatment plan, as of today, is a rectangle on their plans. They don't have a design, they don't have a wastewater engineer, and there's no application before Mass DEP. I spent over a year going to every zoning board meeting in Sandwich for this development, and my biggest concern at every meeting was how they were going to handle their wastewater. And a year later, we still don't have a plan from them. So I would just like to give kudos to this board, everyone on it, for getting this out there with numbers, with a solid design, and also fielding questions from the audience. I'm an advocate for saving our ponds. I think so far this is a good plan, and it's way, way ahead of Village Green for sure. So I'd just like to say thank you.
Hi, Susan Dangle, Cotuit Road. I just wanted to touch base on a couple of things that have been discussed earlier. One is with regard to the water going down the boat ramp at Peters Pond. I've been involved in the boat ramp project through APCC, as Chris has as well, and that boat ramp was on that. All of that water is stormwater. It's not wastewater. It's not groundwater. So yes, it does need to be addressed, but it has nothing to do with anything that we're doing here. And then I had a question about the wells. You don't have to put it back up, but you see those circles around their homes. What about the individual septic systems on those properties? Are they within 100 feet of their own well? Good answer. On the front of the property. They could still be within 100. I don't know the scale here. All right. Still, this is treated wastewater and not septic system wastewater. And then the other image is the one from the diagnostic pond study, if you could put that back up. So over on the left, on the Wakeby Pond budget, there is a 17%, which is the second highest contributor of phosphorus to Wakeby Pond. It's Peters Pond. It's Peters Pond, which has not been sewered. So the phosphorus that is in the Peters Pond is coming through the ground as well, and it's right there in green, as well as Pimlico Pond also to the left. So until Sandwich does some sewering around their own ponds, we're still going to have phosphorus coming in, but obviously the balance, the majority is what we're tackling here. So I just wanted to point that out. The water flows south. That was clearly defined in our diagnostic pond study. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
Laura Cernalavic, Gunter's Lane. What images are going to be attached to the article so that the voters can see and evaluate? Will they be labeled with access roads and piping and all that? Will it be this big of a map in addition to the other map that shows the actual treatment?
So the intent is, and we've actually already started trying to put this stuff together, is, I don't know if you saw the $96 million article for phase 2, we will have poster boards laid out of multiple different types of maps, including other knowledgeable information about the type of grinder pumps so people can understand what those are, things not to flush. We'll put other things out there, but yes, there will be maps at the meeting.
That's what it's going to look like. I know you can't see it from here, but
It's similar to what's up here.
yeah.
It's
Yeah, it's right behind you.
similar.
Very
It's
good.
similar to this.
Yeah, and we'll try to get as much information as we can on it, and like I said, there'll be multiple maps, so if it becomes a situation where it starts looking very cluttered and you can't make sense of it, we can break it down to show like, okay, these are roads, this is about the infrastructure, this is about, and that can be done as well. Yeah, we can actually add that on there.
Hold on, Lynn. Is there anybody that has not asked a question that would like to? And I will get back to you.
Linda Smith, I'm on Sturgis Lane. I was wondering, when we clean up when the pond is cleaned by this system, will it in any way help? When the pond is cleaned by this system, the cluster system, will it in any way help the Mashpee River?
Yes, so this pond feeds directly into the Mashpee River, so that nitrogen that we are reducing, it's going to come out at a lower, was it 25 milligrams per liter is what they say Title V is?
Approximately.
Approximately. Truthfully, it's much higher than that, but that's what the state uses. But we're going to get it down to less than 3 or 3, and then the pond will reduce that nitrogen a little bit in itself, and then, yes, it'll go down to the Mashpee River, and it'll be a much less nitrogen load than what originally is going in there.
Can I just clarify one thing in your question? I just want to make it clear, this alone will not clean the pond. Town of Sandwich is contributing quite a bit of phosphorus to the ponds too, so I just want to clarify.
I will get back to second questions. Anybody that hasn't asked a question yet that would like to?
I'd like to say something.
You know what, I was going to take comments last, but go right ahead.
Well,
Let's get into the comments. I've already taken some.
Comments that have been teed up as questions, so I'll do my best to follow suit. Chris Aziz, Gunter's Lane, nice to see you all. Deeply appreciate the time and the level of effort, the resources that the town is putting toward this. I want to reiterate, in May, I voted for a Mashpee-Wakeby solution. What I didn't know was that I was voting for what I consider a very difficult bargain of giving up open space that was a contingent of the purchase of my home. So I've got a third of an acre lot in a cluster subdivision that was deeded with open space. I'm sorry if I seem a little passionate about this, but what I don't want to be lost is you are all my neighbors. I walk by your houses on John Ewell Road. I love your road. I wave to all y'all. I'm passionate about this, but I want to dispense with the idea that anybody thinks that we're not for clean water. What I'm struggling with is what I voted for in May. I didn't know what I was voting for, but a lot of other people did. It was heavily in consideration. So you've made me a better citizen of the town, and I will be certain to make myself more informed. I appreciate your time. I deeply mean this. But I'm troubled that we're not going to take a lesson plan as a town and play this forward, as we do and need to go forward, to be better stewards of communication and articulating exactly what it is we're talking about doing. Now, you're probably sitting there thinking, so does that mean you wouldn't have voted for it in May if we told you we were going to take away 7 acres of your open space that was part of the deal when you bought your house? Well, we might have had to have a conversation about it. And what does it mean to us? Because that's what we've been doing, is having conversations. But nobody in this room doesn't want to clean the water. And I want us to do better as a town. And I'm going to take an active interest in that. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Yeah. And I would like to, go on that. When the article was put out there, I know a lot of people thought I was trying to slide it through. I was the new guy in town. They said, hey, get this article done. What did I do? What most people in my job do is I went and looked at previous articles and how they were written, because why would I try to reinvent the wheel? And historically, we'd never put the property addresses on there. But seeing the results of today, absolutely. In the future, it will be more clear in situations like that. So I've learned from that mistake. But that was the basis of mine. I said, I'm not going to reinvent the wheel, get the article done. I'll do what's gotten passed in the past, and I did it. But going forward, and I think this has actually made a lot of people more responsible, including myself in my own hometown. I was dealing with my own things. But yes, it's going forward, yeah, we have learned from it. And honestly, with the feedback we've gotten with these meetings, I intend to hold meetings like this for any other future project, because a lot of people said these meetings have actually been very informative. And honestly, I've enjoyed them. I have. It's the work afterwards I don't enjoy, but I have enjoyed the meetings.
And if I could just add to that just for a moment before I continue with questions or comments. I've been impressed with the delivery of the messages, even if there are disagreements. And I understand that there are passions on both sides. I understand that there's been some valid points made relative to communication and specificity, and the town has absorbed that. What impresses me the most is I haven't heard one person, not one, in any of these workshops or in any of these sessions that comes up to me and says, the answer is to do nothing. We may disagree in terms of where and when, but I haven't heard one person, not one, come up to me and say, do nothing. So at least in terms of the improvement of water quality, there seems to be a common denominator. But anyway, there was a question back here. Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
So it seems like at least the biggest major sticking point still is this access question. When do you expect to have that resolved?
So the attorney's office, when I talked to him last, had sent it to a title examiner just to really dig into it. I was told it would take approximately 3 weeks. So we roughly have about another week and a half. So, well, I've emphasized to
You're
him
keeping
we
the
need to
fingers
have it.
crossed it's by the 20th.
Yeah, but we have emphasized we need it ASAP. I was hoping to have it by today because I really pressed on him, but.
That have been shared with the public. And in terms of the postings, I mean, I'd have to take a look at that map closely, Mr. Schofield, but all I can tell you is the conservation agent himself was specifically asked about the signage that you may be referring to. I'm not positive because, again, I'd have to take a look at it. Be more than, well, I don't want to take your only map. Well, I don't want to take a big pause here.
It's the one in question that the comment was surrounding. They're also all throughout here, as well as trails.
So, since you have me quoted here on this map, what I will say is I was specifically referencing, if you could just move this way, just so they can see me. What I can tell you is before this statement was made that he's got me referencing here, I checked with the former Conservation Commission Chair, and I also checked with the Conservation Agent relative to this signage. There was also research done prior to legal with Conservation to ensure that this was not Article 97 land. I understand that there are those that would argue that point, but obviously until a court of competent jurisdiction rules otherwise, we have to go with the legal opinion that has been rendered to the town, which has been shared publicly. As far as the signage, what I think the best thing to do, and I'm saying it on camera, I think the best thing to do is to make an arrangement for you and whoever would like to come in to meet with myself and the conservation agent at the conference room across from the select board's office, and we can have a discussion. And we won't take up all these people's time, and then we could have a follow-up subsequent there too.
So just one more question regarding, or comment regarding Article 97 in this land.
Yes.
This land was identified in the 2008 Open Space and Recreation Plan, where it was planned to be transferred to the Conservation Commission. I've presented that to you guys before. You remember that, the 5-year action plan?
Again, and I don't want to be argumentative, all I can tell you is the town has received and stands by the legal opinion that was rendered, that you have a copy of, because I provided you with a copy of it. And I understand that there have been some issues raised. We've addressed those issues both with conservation and with legal. So I can't sit here and convince you possibly otherwise, but the position of the town is where this facility is being proposed is not, I repeat, is not conservation land in terms of Article 97.
Okay, that's interesting because right here is an email from the Conservation Commission endorsing that action plan and to transfer this land. So the Conservation Commission accepted the transfer of the land, but that never actually happened. To continue, we can move past that. We can disagree on that. You filed a modification to the special permit for this subdivision. The hearing is October 15th with the zoning board?
Yes.
So, that means the special permit has not expired. Special permits do not expire, which means that this is still protected open space, as shown on all of your protected open space maps to continue. And that also means it's still protected under Article 97. By filing the change of use on the special permit, you yourself affirmed that this is protected by Article 97.
We did not. And as a matter of fact, to the contrary of what you just asserted, Town Council, if you take a look at the second opinion, there are two opinions. Anybody that would like a copy of them, be more than happy to email them. There's one, I don't know the dates off the top of my head. One is like a 2 or 3 page, and then the other one I think is a 3 or 4 page. Here's the bottom line. They recommended that we go to the ZBA for the modification, and that was specifically articulated in that letter that you have a copy of. And so we are following the counsel and advice that we were provided in that letter.
Yes, but that letter was specifically to address 2 zoning questions. That was not to address Article 97. The first one, which you say is to address Article 97, addresses the deed restriction, not Article 97 application. And the deed restriction can expire after 30 years, but the special permit does not expire, which you are going to modify.
Okay. Again, we're following the advice and the counsel of the town attorney. You have a copy of it. In terms of what you're saying, the town's position, unlike yours, is this is not Article 97 property. That's the bottom line.
Have you thought about getting a second opinion?
I have not.
The opinion only references in the main case of why it's not Article 97 because it was a tax case. I've read the letters. That's the only argument that they have. Does your town council, KP Law, know that there's been conservation signs posted for over 20 years?
Yes, there was a thorough title search. And I'm trying to recall the attorney that did it for KP Law. If you give me a moment, I can probably pull it out.
I'm not specifically concerned about the title search, more of conservation land signage being posted for more than 20 years, and that the land has been used as conservation and recreation space.
Yeah. So Richard Golder, attorney, provided it August 13th, 2025. And then there was a legal opinion from Jonathan, I believe it's Eichmann, relative to the property on September 24th. And both of those legal opinions have been shared.
What about the legal opinion, I forget what date, August 14th, that hasn't been released to the public?
That was an email from town council, and, you know, quite frankly, the town, and I know we've been accused of not being transparent, but talk about transparency, we have waived lawyer-client privileges on those 2 substantive letters. That is probably more than a lot of other folks might have done. I don't want to speak for other towns or any other cities, but you don't always have a waiver of lawyer-client privilege. We did in order to be transparent, in the spirit of transparency. So here's the bottom line. I understand that there's a position that objects to the position of the town. I respect that. But we can sit here and argue this all night long, and we're not going to accomplish anything, and I don't want to continue down that road. So if there are other comments to make, then we're going to entertain them. If there are other questions, we're going to entertain them, but there will be no arguments. So continue.
I'd also like to just say one thing. I have walked the land at Gunter's Lane, and I've walked and the signs that we saw when we were up there some of them are just signs that are tacked onto trees. So I think you have to be really clear about where the signs came from and who put them up there, and if it's been decided that it wasn't conservation who put them there, who put them there. But some of them are not real signs. They've just been tacked. Some of them are. Some of them are. There are many different ones, and they're all different. So I think you have to be careful of how you're judging the signs and which ones are the right ones.
Okay, this gentleman's got the mic. Let's stick one at a time.
I'll trade off to him.
Okay?
I don't want to make this an argument like you said. I guess I'll just leave it at as far as this and to put it to bed unless you have anything else. Is if you're trying to be 100% transparent, then why wouldn't you give that letter or email? Why not have 100%
Because it sets a bad
transparency?
precedent for the town to absolutely turn over everything from the town's lawyer. In addition to, I'm not going to turn anything over that hasn't been reviewed by the select board.
This project also sets a terrible precedence as far as towns and the responsibility to protect open space.
And in terms of communication, the town acknowledges that we can do better and will do better and should do better. We've acknowledged that. But it still doesn't change whether or not this was Article 97 or not.
If I may, Article 97 is a very specific term with a lot of legal protection, and it requires a very thorough process and with stewardships, third party, or through conservation, and this was never done. This was actually a deeded open space part of a clustered subdivision. That's not argued at all. That is exactly what it was. But it does expire after 30 years if not renewed, and it did expire, and the town now owns that property. The intent, though, is because of the assumption that it was always Article 97 is, in this original deeded subdivision, they actually gave up whoever subdivided it, way more land than was required by the bylaw at the time, much more. So even with this being cut out, we're still meeting that minimum requirements of the subdivision at the time. So we haven't even encroached on what legally could have been done way back then. But we are going to try to one-up it by actually putting it into conservation land. And we've begun those talks, and it's not a simple process. It's a very drawn-out process, and we could have gone our conservation department route, but we've also heard that there's been some trust violations here, so we made let's go to a third-party stewardship. That way we have an outside agency, not part of the town, be able to always be a checks and balance on this property going forward in the future.
I understand your argument as far as excess open space, but I think we'd all agree that, I don't know what the gentleman's name is, but going back in time, if he had the opportunity to get, 5, 10 more lots, he certainly would have done it. The town of Mashpee approved the special permit on the basis of that open space. I know for a fact that if he could have squeezed more lots out of it, he would have done so, and it certainly wasn't because he was feeling generous. So I just want to make that point.
It's a fair point, but he also had on his plans basketball courts, tennis courts, water wellhead, none of which got built. So, I mean, there was a lot of, I can't speak for what happened back in time, but we're sticking with the legal facts, but we do want to make, as a whole, bring it back to actually truly protected land at the end because of what everybody said. And that's just another way of showing that we can't come back and say 5 years from now, hey, you know what, we want a little bit more land to do something else. No, it's going to be protected with a third-party stewardship.
Can you just use the mic, please?
You're going to do now what you should have done 10, 20, 30 years ago.
We didn't commit 10, 20, 30 years ago. The developer committed to deeded open space. We did the plan, that plan, and not all properties on that plan were actually brought into conservation. This isn't the only one that was, oops, we forgot. There was multiple properties that didn't get added, but there was also multiple properties that were added. So it just happens to be one of the properties. It wasn't, yeah, I mean, it wasn't like I planned 20 years ago to say, hey, let's just skip this one. No, it didn't get done. I don't know who was responsible, who wasn't. I'm not here to point fingers at them, but this is where we are today, and we're trying to use this opportunity to clean up the water and also demonstrate that land conservation and water conservation are not two separate entities. They can work together. We just have to make sure we take the time, do it right, get the feedback, we don't think of everything, and try to make that best project that we can. And that's what we're trying to attempt to do at these meetings, is if it goes forward, because it might not, but if it does pass town meeting, we want to have the opportunity to build the best project that shows lands conservation and water conservation can work together and be done in a way that's responsible and do future protection for the remainder of the land.
Okay. There's a hand up over here. I'm sorry, were you done?
I wasn't quite done.
Okay.
So I just wanted to correct something. You had said Article 97 was very finite and very definitive.
It's a specific process with very specific protections.
Until 2017 in Smith v. Westfield, in which they found that property, even if it was taken for the purpose of tax taking, was protected by...
If it was Article 97. It was never Article 97. That's the point we're trying to make. It was never...
That is the entire basis of that entire lawsuit. That land was never Article 97 until 2017, when it was found to be protected as Article 97. Do you want to know why? Because signs were posted on the property that called it a park. So you guys have signs posted all throughout the property calling it conservation land, which then means it's Article 97 protected.
Okay, if I could just clarify, Mr. Schofield, in terms of the signs, the conservation agent, who is the person responsible for these signs being erected in the first place, called into question some of the locations of the signs. I've invited you to come down to the office, sit down with myself and the conservation agent and the assistant agent, or whoever else he wants to have in the meeting, and whoever you want to bring, and try to address the issue. But this is counterproductive. Okay. Over here. I'm sorry, I got one here, and then I'm coming over to you. Richard hasn't spoken at all, so let's go to him.
I just want to thank everybody on the board for the efforts they put into this. I just want to take the time to thank everybody for the efforts that they put into this program, to give everybody the information that's been needed. Thank you.
Thanks. Arden.
Sure. So I'm not here to argue about Article 97.
We've never had an argument.
I'm not going to change your mind, and you're not going to change my mind. I'm not going to change your mind. But why we're talking about it is because the voters deserve to know the full implications of what they're voting on. They deserve to know that this is, in some people's opinion, protected open space. They need to know the precedent they're setting when they vote to release open space for development. They need to know the precedent they're setting when they authorize the town to use open space for other purposes. That's why we're talking about it. That's why we continue to bring it up. We need to know the full implications of what we're voting for.
Thank you.
Brian Clifford again, to John Ewer. To totally change the subject. Is there any possibility that Sandwich is going to could share in the plant? I mean, as far as Pierre Veneer Road and John Ewer Road, is the plant at 100% capacity?
It's not at 100%, and I don't want to speak for Sandwich.
We've had initial conversations with Sandwich, but Sandwich has been kind of sitting back and waiting to see how this pans out and what it looks like before they make any solid commitment. They did show us on the previous map lots that they are, the one that has the phosphorus. That one showed it. Those green lots all the way to the left was what Sandwich identified right off the bat that they would like to be able to contribute to. That'll be a separate funding article that'll be done through Sandwich, presented to the residents of Sandwich, and they would be responsible for any construction. What we are doing is we're going to basically leave an area at the end of that pipe that if Sandwich decides to come in, they can connect into, but they would also be responsible for any upgrades that need to be done to the facility in order to accommodate that flow, including recharge issues that we might run into. But they've been cautiously they want to see how this works out, let us work out all the deals, and then they'll decide whether or not they want to truly go forward.
We're going to go over to Lynn. She's been waiting.
Okay, I have a couple of questions. Could you, now that this map is up here, it's perfect, could you mark specifically exactly what is going to be sewered? Where are the pipes going to be running, and what is the total of the sewage, the area that's going to be sewered? It's not just Gunter's Lane.
No, so the area that we are looking to accommodate is it's like a rectangular area that's the town of Mashpee up here.
Right.
So that's what we're looking to target.
So it starts at it's down on Katuitt, because there's purple down on Katuitt.
Yep.
Then it goes up Pimlico Pond. And then it goes up Deerfield. It goes up to Peters, whatever, Peters Path.
Right. All of those roads we would look to accommodate as part of this project.
And it then it turns the corner and comes all the way down to the green. So all of that's going to be sewered.
So all of that is we're looking to accommodate with the treatment system. There's some areas, like I'll tell you, for example, there's a road off to the side here that was just recently paved that we can't include yet. There are other areas that we're looking at trying to get access to, but the treatment system, we're looking to accommodate, I forget the exact number, it's 220 or plus or minus.
When do we get a map that actually shows that? Because I think, having visited some people in that larger area, they were not informed that they were going to be sewered. So I think it's really important for people to know, oh yes, there's a pipe that's going to go here, there, and there. Okay, so that's one question, because we haven't been transparent about that. I have one other question is, the map that you have in the warrant article, are you going to have that at each election site, voting site as well? Because the question one, nobody has a clue what that means, because it doesn't really.
Question 1 or 4?
Question 1, the ballot question. It's.
Question 1.
Not the article, but the question 1. Nobody has a clue what that all means. It's very vague. And I still don't quite, I understand that you got the legal opinion, you could write the question like that. But that map, people should be able to see that so they're understanding what they're voting for, or possibly against, which I would urge. Because I think it's not that I'm opposed to this kind of a sewer system. I am opposed to it in this location for multiple reasons. But I do think people need to have the knowledge when they're casting a ballot. Remember, I got my mail ballot. If I hadn't been paying attention, I would have no idea what's going on. And I think for that reason alone, people should be dubious about this. My other question is, we have the proposed Article 97 land. That's everything that's not in the leach fields or the actual plant. Because we just have.
No, let her finish.
Okay, all right. I assume, because there's a whole lot of other land over there the proposed to be Article 97, that's in a little circle, but the rest of that land is still their open space, not up there, they're right there, right?
So all of
Okay.
it's everything outside of this
Right.
dashed line.
So how-
Everything here,
okay.
everything here.
So that's the 97. How many acres does that pipe take up that comes right off the cul-de-sac of Gunter's Lane all the way up to the treatment plant? How many acres will that take up?
So that you're talking about here?
Yes, that.
So that's still Article 97. You can traverse Article 97 land for utility use. The governor signed that this year. So it's just being traversed, but it still remains in Article 97. I apologize for the circle you're referencing. I think that is a little bit misleading, but that circle is just the wellhead area, the old one that was originally proposed, but it's everything outside there. Now, what this doesn't show you is it was brought to our attention by the third-party conservation steward, people that we're talking to, that even the leaching field can be added into conservation land. They would just have to specifically write it in there that we are responsible to maintain it and basically meet whatever they say they want it to meet.
Can you assure us that it will be written into conservation land? Because that is very important. My two other things. One is, by not doing this, we're not doing nothing. We, the town, have voted to do the alum treatments in the pond. And that our own studies have shown that the alum treatments are the most effective thing to deal with the phosphorus that's in the pond. Doesn't take out stuff that's still coming out, but that is not the real source of the problem. It's what's in there. When are we going to start the alum treatments? You want to answer that?
Yeah,
Okay, good.
so just correction, it got there somehow. How did it get there?
Well, no, I know, but the real source of it is what's already in the pond for
But-
what
right.
we're looking at in the
But
pond.
it got there from septic systems.
Right.
Correct.
Right,
So,
right,
so
right.
if we continue this problem, we're going to be treating the pond with alum and alum and
Correct,
alum.
correct.
So we currently have released an RFP, and it would be before the select board to award SMAS for the permitting and the dosing and the engineer design for the aluminum sulfate.
So
treatment.
that's going to happen by early next year?
No, it's probably a 2-year permitting process, and then we'll have to go before the town for more money for the actual treatment, which is looking to be around $750,000.
Good, well, come to the CPC and I'll be supporting that. I just want to point out, because it was raised, the question came up to me, I noticed in our current Mashpee Enterprise, in the real estate section, that one of the houses on Gunter's Lane is for sale. And if you go on Zillow, you will read that one of the top features of it is that it abuts open space. That's 15 Gunter's Lane. In the features section of that, it says it is the features of the land that it's on is it's adjacent to abuts conservation land and wooded land. Now, I'm inclined to tell the real estate agent that they need to rewrite that, because I know we've been saying, yes, okay, sewering will raise the value of your property, but being an abutter to a wastewater system probably won't.
Thank you. Anyone else that has not spoken? I think we've covered everybody that wanted to ask a question or wanted to make a comment. So now we'll continue with anybody that has a second or a third or a fourth question. And we'd really kind of like to wrap this up. It's now after 9 o'clock. Go ahead.
Just a question regarding the area here where the pipe is planned from Gunter's Lane up to the treatment site.
Yes.
I understand that most of that outside of the dotted line will be conservation land. Would it be possible to reforest that area after the pipe has been laid?
To what?
Reforest?
Yes.
Is that the plan, or is it possible? That's the plan, with trees.
So that was one of when we went and talked with the Native Land Conservancy, they specifically said that if they decide to take this on as one of their properties, that would be one of their key things, native vegetation for this area. And they would handle, they'll basically tell us what we need to put in and where.
And I have a separate question. Can you guys help me understand, so the special permit for our neighborhood is saying that this area is open space, and now this special permit has to be modified to facilitate this treatment facility. But if this area is no longer open space and it's simply owned by the town, why do we need to modify the special permit?
So the area will still remain open space for the other area, but we have to modify it because we're adding a use that wasn't part of the original design of that area. So we're asking for a variance to do it. But we're not changing any lot lines or anything like that, so we do not need to go in front of the planning board.
Just so everyone that has not heard this is aware of just a snapshot of the August 13th, 2025 opinion and I quote, "In summary, we found no instrument of record that would prevent or inhibit the town's proposed project to construct a wastewater treatment facility at this location," end of quote. And the town did submit 2 questions. One, does the WWTP proposal require a modification to the special permit granted by the ZBA? 2, does the WWTP proposal require a modification of the definitive subdivision plans by the planning board? And I will get to, hopefully, it's a long opinion, so I'm trying to get to the this is dated September 24th. And it says, and I quote, "As set forth above, in my opinion, a modification of the special permit to allow the facility does not require division of the property by recordable plan to create a separate parcel of land for the facility. As such, modification of the special permit in the manner outlined does not require planning board approval, in my opinion. Pursuant to the subdivision control law," and he cites the statute, "planning board approval is required for a plan showing the division of land into 2 or more lots. Modification of the special permit, as outlined above, will not result in a new division of land into 2 or more lots or otherwise alter the boundaries of land depicted on the subdivision plan. In my further opinion, the designation of open space on the subdivision plan and other markings describing the use thereof are merely indicative of what the ZBA approved in granting the special permit and are not conditions or restrictions imposed by the planning board pursuant to subdivision approval. As noted in General Law, Chapter 41, Section 81Q, in approving a definitive subdivision plan, the planning board," and here's another quote, "may require compliance with the requirements of existing zoning ordinances or bylaws, but no rule or regulation shall relate to the size, shape, width, frontage, or use of lots within a subdivision or to the buildings which may be constructed thereon, or shall be inconsistent with the regulations and requirements of any other municipal board acting within its jurisdiction. It is my opinion that the establishment and use of the open space on the subdivision plan was established and may be modified by the ZBA pursuant to the zoning bylaws." End of quote. So based on that, we have an appointment for a review or hearing with the ZBA on the 15th? 15th, October 15th.
So, thank you. Just to follow up on that, the town has stated multiple times and stood by this in previous meetings that this land is no longer protected open space because the deed restrictions have expired, because it's been 30 years. The deed restrictions are separate to the special permit. Even just now, in that legal opinion, it says that this is open space, protected, and that's why it needs to be modified. So I just wanted to point that out as a comment, that the special permit does not expire. This is protected open space for our subdevelopment, and the prior opinion of the town, I mean, it's clear now that you have to modify the special permit that that's the truth. So you are taking our protected open space, modifying the permit to put a sewage treatment facility on that open space. And you wouldn't be able to do it without modifying the special permit.
And all I can tell you is, again, for the final time, council said the facility could be constructed if approved.
With a modification of the special permit. So what is to stop the town from modifying other special permits and other cluster subdivisions for other sewage treatment facilities? Is this the plan moving forward, that you're going to modify pre-existing cluster subdivision special permits, like this one, if needed?
Well, I can't speak for the select board, and I cannot speak for the sewer commission. What I can speak for is the town is only going to focus on what is in our vital and best interests moving forward. It's not like the town, which, by the way, has over 45% land that is undisturbed in the town of Mashpee. It's not like we go out and say, gee, we'd like to develop this just to mess with the neighbors. What we are focusing on is a specific problem, and we're focusing on trying to resolve the problem through the reasonable means that are available to us. If we had another site that was conducive to this situation, we would be pursuing it. We have evaluated this, we've examined this to the point of exhaustion. If you feel that there is a better site, then by all means, give us a call. I mean, even though it's at the 11th hour. Actually, we're beyond the 11th hour. But we are certainly ready and willing to listen to any viable alternative.
I guess the point that I'm trying to make is there's a lot of area in Mashpee with cluster subdivisions with open space, and you have residents who are buying these homes with the intention and the knowledge that that open space is for their subdivision. That's why their lot is smaller, and that will stay that way indefinitely because of the special permit. And now it's setting the precedent that any cluster subdivision who has open space, that's no longer the case. And you have residents who bought these properties knowing that, and now you're going against that, and it's going to cause a lot of distrust with your residents.
And I understand the point that you made. The only thing that I can say is I think there is a distinct difference between the Article 97 that has been asserted versus the land that...
Have you read Smith v. Westfield?
I'm sorry?
Have you read that Smith v. Westfield case?
I believe that was referenced, but
Have
you know
you-
what? I'm
have
not
you-
going to
have
have a
you read it,
legal
though?
debate here. All right? I'm not
not
going to have a
trying
legal
to have a legal
debate.
debate, but that
right.
case very clearly states,
Seriously. State your comment or ask your question.
my comment is that case very clearly states that protected open space, even if it is not deeded Article 97, falls under protection of Article 97, and that was in 2017, Smith v. Westfield. I recommend you take a look at it.
Council has, and has cited that case law.
They did not cite that.
Maybe not in what you read.
One of the big issues of those who oppose this is why didn't we go to Wakeby? Why didn't we file an application to build a cluster system there? I think that needs to be clarified by you, because I think you did answer that, Mr. Drainville, back when, but maybe you should answer it again, why, Wakeby is not out of the picture here. It's just not ready. There are too many problems with that site. You mentioned the recharge. You're looking for a recharge. Could you just outline for people who don't know why you went with Gunter and didn't go with Wakeby?
Yes, we are searching for a groundwater recharge site in the Wakeby watershed. We're hindered by a couple of things. One of them is a PFAS plume from the base, and the other is impacts on freshwater bodies. That's something that's hindering us throughout the town. I don't have slides here to explain it, but there are two issues that we're struggling with that. We have tentatively identified a site in Wakeby, but it's not, it has some challenges associated with it, and we're looking for another site. So we're looking for a site. We're still on, I would say we're still searching for a site to discharge treated wastewater in Wakeby. So we're not ready to submit an application yet.
Was the best one you came up with because?
The one in the Mashpee-Wakeby, north of that, it has a recharge area that we can take advantage of. That's the single biggest challenge that we face with these treatment systems, is being able to discharge the treated wastewater into the groundwater table, and we're able to do that here, so we didn't have that challenge. And then, the property was available to the town and on and on. So just the pieces that we needed were there for this. We don't have that in Wakeby yet. And we're doing phase 2 sewering in Pompanesett at the main plant. We don't have any additional recharge capacity in Pompanesett either. So we are challenged everywhere with this.
Comments, open for comments at this point.
Yes.
My name is Mary Adams Oleksak. I was part of the movement to begin to focus on the water quality issues 5 or 6 years ago. And I applaud the town that we've now gotten to the point where we have staff that are focused on this, and we're doing the depth of projects and the number of projects. And I understand and totally value the right of all the people that are objecting to this plan. But I want to point out to everybody that all of the objections you're hearing tonight will be made in the future on any project that we face in this town. There is no site that's not going to be close to homes, to roads, to open space. We have a very special town, but we have a very hard set of decisions to make. And we're at this point where if we set a precedent tonight or this month that we're going to turn down a project for these kind of reasons, then we will establish that every future neighborhood and abutter and person that has a good argument, which you have a lot of great arguments, we're going to win battles, but we're going to lose the war. Because if we don't come into compliance with the state on nitrogen, we're going to be under a court order. We won't be able to get any favorable financing. And we're only just beginning to understand the phosphorus problem. And so we have here a wonderful possibility to solve both of those problems in kind of a test case, because it's relatively small. So that's the precedent that I would like people to think about, is what are we going to do on the next projects, because we have a very busy staff that's trying to find the next project, and all of the objections that we're hearing can be made probably on any project.
Okay, anybody that's spoken multiple times, you really need to limit it here because it's getting late.
Can you just tell me, is there only just one above-ground structure?
Yes.
It's the one way up on the right-hand side?
Yes. Use the mic, please. Use the mic.
It is above ground, but it's not fully above ground. There's this hill right there. So we looked at it and said, oh, we can actually tuck this into the hill. And so the peak won't be sitting 12 feet in the air. The peak will actually be down at ground level where the leaching fields are.
All that stuff to the left of it, what's that?
It's all subsurface tanks under the ground.
Can you please repeat the date for everyone to go see the cluster system that you're trying to set up?
If we do get the
visitation.
Yep, if we do get the approval, tomorrow hopefully is what we're looking for. We will put it on the town webpage, and it'll be next Thursday, 4 to 6 p.m., and we'll have the location on there.
If we get the approval.
If we get the approval.
We think we're going to, but let's just confirm that first. Don't want to give you any misinformation.
And it would be in the news section on the Mashpee website.
Thank you. I just wanted to say thanks again to all of you for putting so much hard work into this. And it is a project that is got nothing but merit. My one question, if this were to follow through and if the end access point ended up being John Ewer Road, would the town of Mashpee at that point, was there some comment about upgrading when the construction was done or maintenance of the road when the construction was done?
We'll have further discussions for certain.
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you all. Have a good night.